That takes us to 6:30, so we'll call this meeting to order. And can we start with the Pledge of Allegiance? Would anybody like to lead us?
Please rise and join me in the pledge. Ready to begin?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Can we start with a roll call, please?
Director Leslie.
Here.
Director Dennert.
Here.
Director O'Brien. Here. Vice Chair Freeman. Here. And Chair Gray.
Here. That takes us to item number 3, agenda review.
Thank you, Chair. Staff has no recommended changes. The board may want to move agenda item 7B to the end of the agenda. Board preference. It's going to be a brief report.
No, I have no. We can do
I don't know why we would do that.
that. Well, we've discussed before that maybe informational reports go later in the agenda, but if it's brief, you can just keep it where it's at.
Okay, thank you.
Informational, okay.
Okay, thank you. That takes us to item 4, public statements for items that are not on the agenda. Is there anyone in the audience this evening or on Zoom who would like to make a statement for an item that is not on the agenda?
Chair, I have 4 speaker cards. If you don't mind, I'll read the names.
Yes, please. Thank you, Dan.
And I'll have the attorney keep the time, please.
Dan, I think those are on the agenda.
Okay, thank you. Yes, these are on the agenda. Chair, I have 3 speaker cards for the item on the memorial, items 8A. And I have 1 speaker card on general public comment, and that is Gina Goody.
I apologize. Can you repeat that last one for me, please?
Gina Goody, I'm calling to the podium.
Gina, are you speaking for Rick?
No, but I will. No, I was just wanting to bring it to the board's attention that the dedication plaque up at Big Sky Field acknowledging Amanda McPherson is in poor condition. And my husband and I want to volunteer to replace that dedication plaque. And I'm just looking for direction as to who we can contact to have that done as soon as possible.
Jim?
Thank you, Jenny. Yeah, I'll put you in touch with Wayne.
But I am in support of the dedication program.
Thank you. Gina will reach out to you. I'll have Wayne and the staff reach out. Thank you for offering to do that. Appreciate it.
You're quick. Katie and I, we both saw it, and it was looked like just some sun damage, mostly at the top. I was thinking of putting on the list of things to get fixed, but you already came to a meeting and volunteered, so thank you.
Any other public statements for an item that is not on the agenda this evening?
I don't see any in the room, Chair.
Okay, thank you. That will take us to item 5, approval of minutes. Any board questions, comments?
Yes, Director Gray, I do.
Go ahead.
Under my comments, I want to add that after discussion, I chose to give up my position meeting with the mayor and new city councilman in order for Director Avila to attend, because I disagreed with having to have a special meeting to just discuss who is going to attend meetings. So I would like to have that reflected in the minutes.
Staff will do that.
Any other board comment?
Move for approval?
Do we need public comment on this item? I apologize.
Yes, we should, Chair.
Okay. Is there any public comment on the approval of the minutes from March 1st of 2023? Not seeing any online. Dan, is there anybody in person?
Nobody in person, Chair.
Okay. Any other board comment? Okay, I believe there was a motion from Kate. Would anybody like to second?
Second.
All right, can we do a roll call, please?
Director Avila,
Aye.
Director Dennert,
Yes.
Director O'Brien,
Yes.
Vice Chair Freeman,
Yes.
and Chair Gray.
Aye. All right. That takes us to item 6, consent agenda. Of the 5 items, are there any items that a board member would like to poll for discussion? Or would anybody like to move approval of the consent agenda?
I'll move to approve.
Chair, we should do public comment as well.
Right, thank you. Any public comment on the consent agenda or an item on the consent agenda?
I'm not seeing anybody in the boardroom, Chair.
Okay, I am not seeing anybody on Zoom unmute themselves. Okay, there's a motion. I apologize. Was there a second?
No, I'll second.
Okay, thank you, Kate. Can we do roll call on consent agenda, please?
Director Avila,
Aye.
Director Dennert,
Yes.
Director O'Brien,
Yes.
Vice Chair Freeman,
Yes.
and Chair Gray.
Aye. Thank you. That takes us to item 7, presentation, scheduled items, and public hearings. Point A, presentation of the part-time employee of the month for February 2023 to Ryan Letty, Site Director.
Thank you, Chair. Teresa Pennington, the District's Director of Administration, will provide staff's report. And I would like to ask Mr. Letty to approach the podium. And just for your information, Chair, we've got a whole crew of after-school club staff in the room supporting Ryan this evening. So it's good to see.
Honorable Chair and members of the board, the part-time employee of the month for February 2023 is Ryan Letty. Ryan is a site director with the Recreation Department. He's worked for the district for 4 years, and this is his first Employee of the Month award. The person who nominated Ryan stated, Ryan consistently goes above and beyond for his before and after school club site. He's a site director at Mountain View After School Club and works hard to ensure he's running a quality recreation program. Ryan is passionate about his job and cares about every single one of his participants. He continuously comes up with new ideas and exciting activities to keep participants engaged and happy to attend. Ryan has started offering monthly Kids Night Out events, which allows both parents and kids to have a fun night out. Ryan's Kids Night Out event has quickly become popular amongst families with over 50 participants signing up each time. Ryan takes the time to plan ahead, ensure his staff are ready for any challenge. He has a fun, positive attitude and leads by example. Ryan always takes the time to fully train staff to ensure proper protocols and safety procedures are being upheld. Running an after-school club is no easy task, but Ryan's organizational skills and attention to detail allow him to successfully lead a team of staff and ensure participants are having a great club experience. Ryan has an excellent work ethic and is truly invested in the future of the after-school club. He has long-term goals to expand the club and provide families with a quality recreational experience. Ryan is kind and respectful to everyone and is truly an asset to Mountain View After School Club. Congratulations, Ryan, and the record attendance here to support him. Yeah. Public comment first, or?
Yeah, does anybody want to make comment? Public? Any of his co-workers want to make comment? Richard, Mr. Lemo does. Richard?
Good evening, Honorable Board. Richard Lemo, District Staff. I'm also have the great privilege and honor to be Ryan's former supervisor. A couple of things, in case you've never met Ryan before, and it would be very difficult to know. Ryan is the perfect personification of hard work and intangibles meeting and creating this really beautiful, great type of employee. And that's what Ryan is. He's a hard worker and he gets things done and he's organized. You have to work hard for that. But he's also incredibly caring and compassionate and puts every child first. And those are the intangibles that Ryan brings to the table. And I will tell you, no position, no promotion is handed here, right? You have to earn it. And we do that through the interview process. That said, we had to beg Ryan to participate in that interview process for years and years and years. And he had other priorities, and that speaks to the type of person that he is. He wouldn't participate in the process to get a promotion if he knew that he couldn't give it 110%. And so we're very lucky that he did decide to participate in that process, and he's earned everything that he's got, but we're very lucky to have him.
We don't have any more in the room, Chair.
Thank you. Anyone on the board like to share a comment? Ed?
Sure, that's great. Ryan, I don't think we've met, but I definitely want to get to know you. This is really great. I think everyone knows, I preach how important our youth is and how important our after-school clubs are, and for you to set such an example is awesome. And to have everyone here supporting you and it supports our after-school clubs, this is just a great night. Congratulations, well deserved.
When I see a large crowd of your coworkers and teammates, it reminds me that deserving of this award includes the fact that you've worked as a team. Otherwise, they wouldn't be here for you. And being able to work as a team delivers good quality programs for kids. So, thank you.
And Ryan, if you can step up to accept the plaque and get a couple board members. Do you have any family around? Or anybody that you want to cut? Maybe a couple board members, or all of you with Ryan.
Oh my.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you. Congratulations. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Did you want to say?
Yeah. I wanted to say a few things.
Congratulations, Ryan.
Thank you. Just want to say a couple of words. All right. All right, so this is my first year being a director, so this recognition means a lot to me. So since I've been a director, I've received an overwhelming amount of support from my supervisors, Danielle and Zen, and my old supervisor, Richard. And I've received a lot of support from my coworker, Zach Lemo, as well. Every week I'm calling him a couple of times a week, and he's more than willing to help every single time. Along with Zen, my supervisor, she's more than willing to help always. So that's super appreciated for me. And last but not least, I want to thank my awesome staff. They're always the best employees, and I couldn't have done this without their help. They are truly the top tier employees. So thank you, everybody.
I want to thank you for being creative and bringing parents involved with their kids. I don't think we have enough of that, and that's really great that you did that and had such a time for that. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. That takes us to item 7B, report on the 2023 Earth Day event. Verbal report.
Thank you, Chair. Zach Miller, Director of Recreation, will provide the report.
Good evening, Chair Gray. I'm glad that all my staff is staying behind to listen to this report. We'll be quick.
They are now.
To celebrate Earth Day, the district's continuing its tradition to offer an annual event to celebrate the natural environment through a community beautification event centered around community planting projects, community acknowledgement, and environmental education. The Recreation Department and Planning and Maintenance Department worked collaboratively on the 2022 event to plant flowers at Barrowwood Park. Youth submitted Earth Day related poems for a youth contest, while individual organizations and businesses were acknowledged through a recognition award for their environmental leadership and ongoing contributions to resolve environmental concerns. The 2023 Earth Day celebration will host many opportunities for the community to participate in. In lieu of an official awards program this year, recognition of community partner and conservation advocates will take place at the April 19th Board of Directors meeting. The Board of Directors or staff that wish to acknowledge a community advocate, youth, or business can do so by notifying the staff of the individual organization, and we can bring those people to our April 19th meeting to recognize them for their efforts. Our after-school clubs have already begun engaging in the Earth Day activities by starting on art projects that will be on display at our event at Chumash Park on April 21st. Kids not enrolled in the ESC clubs can submit two-dimensional artwork to display at the event as well, and we'll solicit those later in the month. On April 21st, Earth Day festivities will kick off with a tree planting ceremony from 1:30 p.m. to 2:30 p.m. at Stratton Historical Park and Museum. The ceremony will honor the Busy Hands Garden Club, for which many years has been an avid supporter of the Park District by generously making donations to support the tree planting program. This year, the Busy Hands Gardens Club donated $1,000 and will be utilized to plant a sycamore tree within Stratton Park. Their donations come from the proceeds made at their annual Mother's Day plant sale. After that, the Earth Day celebration will continue at Chumash Park with the Park Beautification Project, youth activities, environmental education booths, and a trail hike and cleanup. Youth and adults are invited to join the staff at 3:30 p.m. at Chumash Park to plant native plants, spread bark, and remove unwanted vegetation. Plants and planting materials will be provided by the Park District. Participants can also connect with community vendors to learn about environmental and conservation concerns. The hike and trail cleanup will begin at 4:30 p.m. on the Chumash Trail. Participants are encouraged to bring their own set of hand pruners if they have them, but otherwise could use district-provided tools if they don't have their own. Staff, trailblazers, and community leaders are scheduled to assist with the trail cleanup and invite the community to join the effort to protect the open space and natural beauty our community has to offer. That concludes my report. I'm happy to take any questions.
Any board questions?
Wayne, it might be for you, but when I heard tools, does that mean we're getting rid of some mustard?
Don't know yet. That's up to Dr. King.
Okay. And then I do like, is there any plans to involve like high school service clubs?
We'll be inviting kind of our regular groups that have done volunteer projects in the past and put an all call out for a registration for volunteers, yes.
All right, how many people are we expecting? Are we going to have all those service groups, student service groups? Do you want like Rotary and like Kiwanis to take part also? Do you want to?
I believe the leadership through the chamber is going to be a major player in the trail participation and the beautification of the park. So I believe that they're already on tap. Any volunteers that want to come out and join us can. I believe that there's a big kind of berm there at the park that we'd like to cover with wood chips and do some planting on. So there's plenty of work if folks want to come out and join us.
Okay.
Are we putting it out on our Facebook and all of our meeting?
Yes, later, towards the end of this month or early in April, we'll start that promotion.
The nature of wildlife education, what's that look like?
I believe we have some groups from around town that work in these fields that are going to set up booths and do little small activities, hand out brochures, and educate the public on, I believe, water, some planting, and some. And I believe Busy Hands Garden Club will come over after the tree planting and maybe assist with some of that as well.
I'll wait till board member comments.
Any other board questions? All right, any public comment on this item?
I don't see any in the boardroom, Chair.
All right, I'm not seeing any on Zoom. That will take us to board comments. I believe Director Dennert had a comment he'd like to share.
Zach, there's a group called Poison Free Malibu, and they teach people about the dangers of anticoagulants and the environment. That they might be invited to have a table there. The reason I mention it is what you were saying about education is I would like a local focus when given a choice. So as an example, it's nice if kids learn about koalas, but at the expense of learning about our local wildlife, it'd be neat if they learned what lives here. So Poison Free Malibu might help out with that because they're teaching about what not to use. They have posters and pictures and flyers and stuff like that.
I'm familiar with the group. I'll reach out to them.
Okay, thank you.
Any other board comments? Okay. Thank you, Zach. That will take us to item 8, continued business. Subpoint A is review and provide direction on district's memorial policy and discuss options to memorialize individuals on Park District property related to a community request for a Rick McClure Memorial.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Miller will provide the report.
Good evening, Chair Gray and Board of Directors. Tonight we are here to discuss the district's memorial policy and to discuss options to memorialize individuals on park property. This item came to the board via discussion on how to potentially memorialize Rick McClure, who was a local bike shop owner who advocated for biking in our community. The Park District receives repeated requests to memorialize community members on park property. With few exceptions, the Park District has not allowed the placement of plaques, trees, or benches, other memorials to be installed on district property. Our policy manual does address this, and I'll read the policy so that we can frame the discussion for this evening. The policy states that memorial plaques, donor bricks, donor walls, etc. shall not be accepted or allowed for the following reasons. 1, these areas are subject to continued expansion over the years. 2, these areas promote requests for additional donor areas in the same or other parks. 3, these areas detract from the aesthetic quality of the park. 4, these areas are subject to vandalism or theft, which may offend the donors. 5, these areas increase district costs to overall management and maintenance. 6, these areas create the public expectation that they will remain and be maintained forever, which is simply not possible given the ever-changing needs of the residents. And 7, these areas decrease in significance to future residents with the passage of time. The exceptions to this policy are the Rancho Tapo Veterans Plaza and Strathern Historical Park and Museum, and other circumstances providing an overriding benefit to the entire community. The last sentence of this policy does allow the board to recommend allowing for these types of memorials, or the board could consider changing the policy manual if you wanted memorials allowed on a bigger scale. The board of directors was asked to consider a memorial for Rick McClure, known in the biking community as the Bike Guy. Rick owned a local bike shop for about 5 years, but worked in local bike shops for 28 years here in our community. Friends of Rick have suggested that the district honor Rick for his service in the community by memorializing him in some way. Due to the restrictions in the policy manual, staff have been asked to consider some alternatives that might be appropriate to honor Rick's impact to the community. Initially, this was considered as part of a possible larger effort by means of an Adopt a Trail program or something of that like, but ultimately shifted to some of these following ideas that I'm going to present this evening. 1, staff could help in the placement of a bike repair station like those we've previously installed by some Boy Scout groups in strategic locations on the trails. 2, staff could help Rick's friends on the Memorial Bike Ride event on district property if they so chose. This could be a free permit that the board could pass out to them at a specific location and include some staff time potentially to help promote the event in the community. And finally, if the BMX facility is ultimately approved and constructed, the board could consider allowing for the naming or installation of some type of memorial in Rick's honor at the future facility. This could be in the form of naming a certain part or portion of the facility, such as a starting gate, finish line, or some other amenity that ultimately is built at the BMX track. Staff is recommending that the board of directors direct us this evening to consider changes to the policy manual to allow for specific memorials or to provide other direction based on these alternative suggestions before you. That concludes my report. I'm happy to answer your questions.
Any board questions?
If we build or the community that wants to honor and builds a bike repair station, I have a question about that. We built a few, and maybe Wayne might know, but how are they going? As in the Scout projects, the recent bike repair stations, we heard a lot of vandalism. I know obviously at Rocky Peak that had to be repaired once.
To answer your question, the 2 most popular ones, Rocky Peak one, we do have to get up there occasionally. The one at Rancho seems to go quite well. We haven't had any vandalism as far as I've been told from staff.
Thank you. And then, Zach, you might be able to answer this question, but let's say the community that wants to remember him builds a bike repair station, puts a plaque on it in honor of Rick, and then 10 years from now, just routine maintenance on the bike repair station. Who's responsible for that?
So I believe that that's what the policy is trying to address, is really the plaque portion, probably more so even than just the station itself. The plaques, as we even heard earlier this evening, have issues with standing the test of time, advocacy, community members who want to try to keep it in a good place, or those that don't, and then ultimately it falls on the district typically to repair or fix those if we get that. So I think that's part of the reason the policy was previously written the way it was, to remove some of that liability long-term for the district.
Any other board questions? Not seeing any. That will take us to public comment. Dan, I believe you mentioned 3 speaker cards.
Yes, sir. I will do Dan McClure first, please. Welcome, Dan.
Hello, my name is Dan McClure. I'm the father of Rick McClure. As you all know, he passed away last September. I just hope that this committee somehow does recognize him because he is Simi Valley. We moved here in '67, and he's been a mentor, a teacher. He's brought a lot of kids to know bicycles, BMX, and even the fathers now who were young then bring their kids in and gets Rick to buy or make their bikes for them. He was a great guy. And I just want this committee to recognize that and know that he is Simi Valley. I mean, he is Simi Valley. It's just, he was more known than the mayor. I'd go in restaurants with him or to show or whatever, and everybody say, "Hey Rick, how you doing? How you doing?" And it's like, who am I? I'm nobody. If my son, you would say hi. But that's how he was, and he loved everybody. He helped everybody. That's all I got to say. Is I just hope that it comes to fruition, that you guys do come up with an idea that he's not forgotten. Thank you.
Monica McClure?
Hello, everyone. I'm Monica McClure, the wife of Rick McClure. I'm here to plead that you do change your memorial policy because of things that my father-in-law said. Rick really represented what it's like to be a good person in Simi Valley. He had a great impact on numerous troubled youths. He always was giving of himself, and he was a friend to all. He donated to many community events, charity fundraisers, donated of his time. He did a lot of things without even people knowing anything about it. He gave to everyone. And like Dan said, he was known everywhere. I was in the airport with him in Florida, and someone knew him. I was in St. Thomas, and someone knew him. I never expected that. He was known everywhere. And had he run for mayor or city council or park board or anything like that, I think he would have won just by notoriety in his name because of what he's done and the foundation he built. But I wrote something earlier on Facebook, and I'm just going to kind of read that to you. And that is, Rick was truly a huge part of Simi Valley and its history. He was also representative of how one person can change the trajectory of another person's life. I cannot tell you how many people have come forward and shared with me their stories of how Rick made a difference in their lives. Many of these now adults, even successful business owners, were once preteens and teenagers that were struggling with drug and alcohol use, anger issues, committing thefts, even homelessness. We took a couple of them into our home or let them stay on our property when our sons were little. Rick never judged these kids, spent time talking with them, supported and encouraged their interests, and always made them feel like they mattered. Everywhere we went, people knew Rick. He was very popular with kids of all ages. Sometimes the bike shop would be 5 or more kids deep, just hanging out, and Rick was fine with that. This is just a snippet of the things he did. Rick also generously donated his limited time to community events over the years, donated numerous bicycles and products to schools, fundraisers. Not looking for a tax write-up, even though he should have. I could go on and on about him, but those of you lucky enough to know him, you already know most of this. In my opinion, and the opinion of numerous current and former Simi Valley residents, Rick really deserves to have some type of permanent memorial. Wouldn't it be fantastic that future generations can know what type of man he was and the difference he made to our community? Talk about an inspiration. And some of the concerns that you have are in your policy about memorials being vandalized or the upkeep. There again, anybody that stays in Simi Valley that knew Rick, I think if funds are an issue, volunteer time, any of that to maintain or upkeep these things, you'll have plenty of people. They're not gonna forget Rick. You're not gonna go out of pocket and you're great expense. And as for the bike stations, I'm glad that the two are holding up, but those do tend to get vandalized a bit from what I've heard from other people, maybe in other cities, not here in Simi Valley. I think signage or naming the BMX track, if that ever comes to fruition, might be a good option, or a section of. And I wanted to mention to you that there's an 8-mile trail in San Luis Obispo County named after a man. I can give his name. I'd have to look that up. It's right here. But it's an 8-mile trail, and it's very well known. And Bob something, I think, is his name. But if we need that for later reference, I can provide that. There are many places and cities that do this all the time. And I think that you should really change the policy. And if it doesn't happen, I think people are going to keep bothering you about it. I don't think this is going to go away.
May I ask a question?
Sure.
You've answered it sort of already, but I just want to make sure I'm clear on it. What would be more meaningful, a bike repair station, or I'm hopeful, there's no guarantees, but would we have a new BMX track, maybe naming a portion of that, or having a plaque there? What could be more meaningful for them?
Well, I would like to go for both because it's been 5 years now and the BMX track hasn't happened. I'm really hopeful that it does happen. I would say the BMX track, given the amount of time and that he spent there and mentored those kids, would be appropriate. But in the meantime, the repair stations or little placards or something, whatever you deem appropriate, I just would love to see something happen for him. I thank you all for your time and listening to me.
Thank you, Chair. Next speaker, Bill Meneray.
Good evening. I am Bill Meneray. I'm a small business owner here within the city of Simi Valley. I'm also a member of the Chamber of Commerce for quite a few years. Raised my family here. All my kids have ridden bikes from the ground up. We've all been dealing with Rick. Rick is the only go-to guy for bikes. He was not only a mentor, but he was also a good role model. I feel very strongly that memorializing this man in a way, in my suggestion of the bike path and or also repair stations would be ideal. The policies that you guys have within the city are great, but in some cases things need to be adjusted a little bit to accommodate the need and the outcry of the community. And this is a perfect case of it. This man has devoted his life to his community, to the youth, and keeping kids off the streets, off their Game Boys, and get them out to some healthy activity. As Monica was saying, they've taken kids in, troubled youth, and rehabilitated them, if you will, to get them out on bicycles and ride. You know, I'm a president of a local bicycle club here in the Simi Valley myself, and we constantly ride. We ride the path, we ride the Arroyo a lot. We would love more than anything to see recognition of this man on the path by some sort of signage or what have you. You guys are worried about vandalism and theft and so forth. I understand that. This is the world we live in. You can't get away from it, but there is ways to deter it. Like for instance, if you had signage, then it was up high, not on the ground like a bike station. If it was up high, out of reach, chances are Little to no maintenance, little to no vandalism at all, if any. I was riding last week and I rode by the fire station, I believe it's 43 on LA and Yosemite, and my tires were low. And I'm like, hey, I'm gonna check this thing out, you know? Well, lo and behold, it was damaged. The hose is duct taped up. I couldn't even air it up. So vandalism on these stations, you know, seems to be, you know, an issue that needs to be dealt with, and that's money, that's time, that's resources. They're on the ground, everybody can get at them. Signage up high on the bike path, or some way of remembering this man on the Royal Path, I believe is one of the best ways. That, and then once the BMX track comes along, maybe some other, you know, monuments or devoting the launch ramp or something of that nature to help continue the legacy of this community icon. The repair stations are great, they are helpful, but again, you're dealing with maintenance and you're dealing with vandalism. So thank you for hearing my words, and hopefully you'll take this into consideration. Thank you.
Chair, I have additional speaker Gina Gooding.
Hello again. As someone who went to high school with Rick and used to watch him and his friends out at Devonshire Downs at the BMX track, and bought all of our bikes from him for our family and my kids, to this day know Rick is the bike guy. I think it's fateful that I'm here tonight. I had no idea that this was on the agenda. I was simply here to talk about the dedication plaque for Amanda. And I think it's absolutely appropriate that I'm here to give you a point of reference that Amanda's dedication plaque was installed in 2007, and it has had little to no vandalism. It is at a public park, and here we are, how many years later, I don't do the math on that, and we're finally in a need to possibly replace it. And I believe what you're gonna find is, if the park district has an inability to replace or repair things at that time, if it involves someone like Rick, who very much was an icon in the community as Amanda and her family, you will find people like me who wanna come forward and dedicate and repair and donate the replacement or repair of something you might need in the future. So I would strongly support that we either do the dedication plaque on the bike path as well as the BMX track. I think that would be fantastic, and I don't think you're gonna find that this is gonna become a troublesome issue or an expense. And even if it did, I think you're gonna find community members who wanna take it upon themselves to replace it so that the park district is not burdened with it. Thank you.
Is there anybody else in the boardroom that would like to make comment? Seeing none, Chair.
Okay, thank you. I'm not seeing any on Zoom. That will take us to board comment. Would anybody like to start us off?
I have a question, Josh, if I could.
Please do.
Okay. Dan, so I tried to listen to Zach when he was ticking off the policy. In order to do something that we want to do here, are we able to do that within the policy? Because when I was hearing it, I felt like I almost heard that there are situations where you can have exceptions.
Yeah, there's an exception for overriding community benefit, it says, to the policy.
So based on that, and based on the outcry from the community, we could do this without having to change the policy.
Correct.
I have a couple of comments. First of all, I think the bike ride or the bike repair stations are a great idea. From what I understand, I had never met the fellow myself, but from what I understand about him, it sounds like a bike ride that would get people out having fun in nature, riding bikes would probably make them real happy. Is that okay? Good. And if we partnered with people, volunteers who wanted to put this together, if they wanted to make it a fundraiser, that'd be even better for some charitable cause. Bike stations are also a neat idea. I was thinking that if we were to do that, I know at the Veterans Plaza in Stroud and several other parks we have, I know we sold bricks or painted tiles that people could like buy in memory of somebody. We could help raise funds that way for maintenance. Just a thought. those are my ideas. The only problem I have with naming the BMX track after, which would be great, is that we're not gonna have that for another several years. So, I don't know, I'd like to get it, if we're gonna do a memorial of any sort, I'd like to do it before that. So, those are my comments.
Chair, I also just wanted to note, because it was raised, we're actually partners in the Arroyo Bike Path with the city and the Flood Control District, and anything we do on the Arroyo would require some approval from them, especially the Watershed Protection District who owns the property. We have an easement for the bike path, but anything out there has to be run through and permitted by Watershed Protection District as well, just a note.
Thank you, Dan. Any other board comment?
Yes. Oh, sorry.
I think definitely we should do something as a memorial because he was a big part of this community, affected a lot of lives, and we should recognize that. That being said, she and I haven't talked, but we kind of came across the same conclusions. I really like the idea of a bike repair spot named after him. I mean, that would be a benefit to the community and benefit to the riders. And I don't know where it would be or how it would work. I like that idea. And I like having an event for him where everyone can come out, ride in his honor. In terms of the BMX, I'm not comfortable because I'm not comfortable yet just when all that's going to happen and how long it's going to be. And there's no definitive timeline for the BMX track yet. Hopefully soon, but right now we don't have it. If we were to name a trail after him, I was wondering if rather than the standard plaque that can be pulled off or modified if it's upright, it can be put in the ground like a brick, like a concrete section with his name and honor in the trail, and instead of having something that attracts the attention of somebody with a spray can. You know, I don't know, maybe on the concrete pad with its name and dates on it, something like that. I thought might work on one of the trails. But I do like the idea of the bike repair and the event. But I'd like to see a slab patio, marker on the ground. I think it would not be vandalized quite like things are vandalized, unfortunately.
Dan, I want you to know that you wanted him to be recognized and that he'd be remembered as a great guy and that he was Simi Valley. And there's a lot of ways to do that. We're working on that part, but I agree with you on that. And he won't be forgotten. We'll find a way to do that. That's my opinion. Monica, you said he was popular with kids of all ages. And I like that wording because I was at the crowded memorial and it was raining and it was super crowded and there was definitely young kids and really old kids. But by that I mean people older than me and younger than me, all with good memories, and that was good to see. And Billy, you said it, the goal should be to honor his memory in a way that's unique to him, get kids out and ride. So that's what he did. So I want a way that honors him and what's important to him, obviously bikes. I like the idea that he continues to help repair bikes. So a bike repair stand makes sense to me for that and gets people together riding. To address, nothing's perfect, but to lower the chances of vandalism if we, I like the idea of Frontier Park because it's right on the road, it's kind of quiet. But Wayne, in answering that question about the bike repair station at Duck Pond, it's right on a busy street. So it might reduce it if it's at an entrance to an arroyo somewhere, because there's lots of cars driving by. Maybe that could be a solution to reduce the chances, because the one at Rocky Peak was up in the hills, tools disappeared. The one at a crowded park, maybe that keeps it a little bit safer. I like the idea of a community bike ride. We could do as you mentioned, a fundraiser. His family could put that together for a local charity that he would support. At that, we could just have the start of the ride, and collect some money, whatever he thought was appropriate. Would like. And then for the BMX park, I agree with you. It's off in the future. It's in our budget and plans, and we're working on it, but it's in the future. So I'd like to just put it to the operator to say, to find a place. And then when we get to there, they can figure that out. And then I'd like, Elaine, I agree with you, like, a community bike ride would be good, because I recognize it. Maybe like a kids showing off some BMX moves before the bike ride and start and ride the rodeo together. And then as far as a sign goes, like in the ground, I'm open to that too. But looking at our policy, my feeling on it is, first, we have to say that there's a community benefit, and we're arguing that these things would benefit the community. And then that it's an exception. So I think my understanding this would be, we're agreeing that it has an overriding community benefit. This is an exception to the policy. And then some of the details, maybe staff could work out with the family. Dan, would that give you direction? If we said do some of these things with details to follow, or do you want more feedback?
As long as I understand what some of the things are, yes. So if I get consensus from the board on what those things might be, yes, we can work with the family on that for sure.
So maybe if you go down that list, a community bike ride, do we have consensus for that?
Yeah, I haven't spoken yet.
Okay. Let's hear from Director Alvarez.
So, yeah, I mean, I think it's a no-brainer that this fits within our policy. He was clearly important to the community and a meaningful figure in the community, so I don't even think we need to change the policy. I think clearly we can go forward with honoring Rick, and so I would definitely recommend the bike repair station. I'm also good with the event. And I'm not necessarily opposed to the BMX idea. For me, I'm going to be one who's pushing to get that thing done sooner rather than later. So I hope it's not a long wait. But in terms of making a decision on that, I would want to wait until we have more clarity on it. One, I don't necessarily think it would be a decision for the operator. I'd like to think we're going to be more involved with the BMX track this time around, and so it would be our decision. But second, I don't know what it's going to take to get the track going sooner rather than later. And I just think if you start making commitments on things like that, then everything, then all of a sudden we're going to have 20 people that want portions of the BMX track named after them, and that's not really the point of all this. So I'm actually not opposed to that. I just think that's something we hold off on. Let's get the track approved. Let's get the track built, and then we take that part up at that point. But I'm good with the other ideas. I think it's great, and I think it clearly. This clearly falls within something that's more than meaningful to the community and more than a benefit to the community. So I think it clearly falls within our current policy.
Thank you, Ed. I'm going to chime in real quick unless, Dan, did you have something you needed to add?
I do not, Chair.
Okay, thank you. So I also support memorializing in some fashion. And this is, from here on out, this is my perspective. I heard both Monica and Dan talking a lot about youth engagement and involvement and how important that was as a top of the pyramid for general cycling and biking and BMX. And so I think I'd be most interested in Monica and Dan's opinions on what would be most impactful. One thought I had as an idea to a potential bridge to if BMX would be most, the greatest honor would be to do the memorial bike ride event until the time where we can memorialize something at the BMX track when it is done. And it would echo Ed's comments that, that is also a priority. We need to get it done. We are working on it. It will take some time, but I think doing an annual memorial bike ride event continues to engage the public, continue to engage his loved ones, and an opportunity to memorialize and honor that could be a bridge of doing this event until we are able to memorialize at the BMX, if a BMX memorial would be most special for that. But I think at the end of the day, if Monica and Dan or other members of the family have a strong opinion about one thing, I think then that's an easy call to make. I'm not promoting one thing over the other, but that was a thought I had, is we could do that event leading up to.
I think I'm seeing a nod.
Yes.
I'm seeing some smiles and some yeses.
So, Chair, if I could, I heard direction for staff to work with the family on a bike station location. I heard that the board is okay with a memorial plaque on the bike station in this instance to honor Mr. McClure, to work with staff and the family on an annual bike ride, and then potentially as the BMX track moves along to bring that discussion back as a part of the construction of the BMX track down the road a bit, to revisit the issue then.
I just wonder if it's possible, like on Madeira, the entry to the trail, if there is a place to put, say, a 2x2 concrete, I don't want to say slab, but flush with the ground with his name and recognizing him there. I mean, it seems simple to me.
Would that be like bike repair stand? And I've seen sometimes it's this tall or sometimes in the ground, but next to it at one of the entrances, is that what you're thinking?
Okay, I think when it's standing up, it's just a target for graffiti.
So you're suggesting the in-ground plaque or concrete in lieu of the bike station, or in addition to the bike station and the bike ride?
In addition to the bike station.
I would say, Dan, that's something, I'm fine if you discuss that with the family and come up with the best way to
I
represent.
mean, it seems that it would be simple at the entrance to the, one of the, on Madeira.
Okay.
Off Madeira.
I would agree with Ed. We should discuss with the family what would be most meaningful.
Okay. That gives staff the direction we need, if the board's okay with that.
Do we need a motion for that? Staff direction. I don't think so.
Okay.
Dan, if we don't make a motion, you're not going to bring it back to us, you can just do it, correct?
Yeah, I'm taking this as you guys are giving me direction administratively to install a bike location and working with the family to dedicate staff time to support an annual bike event, which the bike station may include any number of ways you could plaque it or sign it, and then also to bring back the discussion along with the BMX track discussion. So if I have a kind of unanimous support on that, I don't think we really need a motion. If any of you are in disagreement with that, we may want to take a roll call. And then with that, staff will move forward with those things and working with the family, and it won't be back to the board.
That's fine.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. That takes us to item 9, new business.
John, can I ask for a 5-minute break?
Yes, let's take a 5-minute recess. We can return at 7:28. All right, that takes us to item 9A of new business, consideration of increasing Park District funding contribution for the annual community 4th of July celebration.
Thank you, Chair. Richard Lemo, the district's community outreach officer, will provide staff's report.
Good evening, Chair Gray, Honorable Board. I'm here tonight on behalf of staff to request your consideration of Park District funding of the annual 4th of July celebration. I'm excited to announce that the event will be held again, hosted by the local Kiwanis Club of Simi Valley, and hosted again on the 4th of July, the actual 4th of July, which I know the community will be very excited about. Just a little bit of background as it pertains to Rancho Simi's involvement in this particular event. Rancho Simi has co-sponsored the event for a number of years, providing the venue, district staffing, use of the showmobile, as well as a monetary contribution to help towards the cost of fireworks and associated costs of fireworks. The city of Simi Valley has also pledged monetary contribution over the years. We've typically matched that contribution. This year, the city has pledged to contribute $30,000. To give a little bit more historical context, between the years 2016 and 2018, we matched the city's contribution of $25,000. In subsequent years, that contribution was $20,000 to match what the city had contributed. And as we mentioned, the city will be contributing $30,000 this year. With that in mind, our staff recommendation is to the board to approve a monetary contribution in the amount of $30,000 in support of the annual celebration of the 4th of July. I'm here to answer any questions that you have. I will say the Kiwanis representative, Kathy Van Etten, sends her regrets. She wanted to be in attendance this evening. Their board is also meeting tonight, so I'm available to answer any questions.
Chair, if I could, I just wanted to add the process of lighting off fireworks has become increasingly complicated from a regulatory perspective. In addition, we know the cost of fireworks and staff and all of those things for the pyrotechnic companies are also have increased quite a bit over the last number of years. So just that bit of information to go along with the staff's recommendation.
Thank you. Any board questions?
Yeah, I have just a question about the finances. We have money set aside that we can do this, right?
We have $20,000 set aside for this year. If the board approves it tonight, the event is on July 4th. So I'll probably add another $10,000 to your budget going into next year, or pay the additional $10,000 this year. But we have sufficient funds to be able to increase the contribution if the board would like.
Ed, any questions?
Just a follow-up to that. Dan, in past years, we've actually funded it up to as much as 25,000.
25, correct, yeah.
And I'll leave it at
I've seen sometimes people discuss, I know it sounds funny, when the 4th of July is, what changes in the pricing if we do it on literally the 4th of July or a weekend?
That would be a great question for Kathy. What I can tell you in years past is the availability of those to launch the fireworks can often affect the cost.
And then what I'm seeing in the report is the 4th of July is on the 4th of July this year?
Yes, that is correct.
Thank you. We'll say Independence Day. And my last question is, I know in previous years it was really important to Ed that we bring this back. So is it possible we can have him light a few? Like maybe in previous years, the 4th of July, bringing it back was very important to you. Could we have Ed light a few fireworks off? I don't know.
You don't want me doing that. But you know I love this, and I still think we should have done it in 2020. So I love this event. You don't want me anywhere near a firework. Right.
That's all my questions.
Is there anybody in the audience who would like to comment?
Actually, I do have a question for Richard before we get to public comment. Just to clarify, is Rancho Simi on all the marketing materials that go out and are distributed throughout the community?
Yes, we're listed as a co-host of the event. No, we are included in all the marketing materials.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Dan. Sorry. Any public comment on this item?
I don't see any in the boardroom, Chair.
Okay, thank you. I don't see any on Zoom. Any board comment? Ed.
I think I'm very much in favor of increasing it to 30,000 and thank the Kiwanis Club for stepping up. It's a lot of work to put it together, but I think on a community-wide basis, we have 2,000 people come out, or, it's something that, more than that probably, and I think it's very important that we as a community do this on the 4th of July and cooperate with the city. My question is, we're going to just absorb the staff time, or is that included in the 30,000?
No, that's in addition to, in addition to the direct financial contribution, we also, because it's such a large community event, we provide the venue at no fee, and we also contribute our staff out there to help coordinate and set up the rangers and stuff. So that's in addition to the 30.
Kiwanis is pretty good about trash pickup and keeping it clean, but I just want to make sure everyone understands there's more than just the money. And does the city contribute the police protection? Or?
The city's done a couple of both. They've charged them some. They've charged them some of the police costs. Okay. So I don't have the information on exactly what the city's planning in terms of the police department cost. Yeah.
Anyway, I think to benefit the whole community, I think it's a great investment. Thank you.
Yeah, historically we've been matching the city contribution, and so you create an expectation, so probably we should do this. In terms of safety, I just want to remind everybody that the accident we had was 10 years ago now. It doesn't seem like that long, but it was.
Yes.
Safety, yes, good idea.
Can I go, Josh?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, great. Yeah, I enthusiastically support this. A couple things. First of all, definitely thank the city for the fact that they're upping their contribution. You know, I don't really think we needed to skip a year on this event as it was, but it's great that it's back. It's great that it's back on the 4th of July. It's an awesome community event. It's a patriotic event. It's an important event for this community, and it always has been. It's always been well attended. And the other thing I'll say is there has been a problem in recent years having a group like Kiwanis want to help organize it. It's not, it absorbs a lot of time. It's not a money maker, and it's really a contribution to the community by Kiwanis or whoever co-hosts the event. So yeah, to me, this is a no-brainer. It's an easy call. And as I say, I've always had in my mind that whether we use the whole amount, I've always thought we were prepared for $25,000 anyway. So for me, it's really just going up from $25,000 to $30,000. And for this event, it's more than worth doing. So I enthusiastically support the increase and look forward to our best 4th of July event yet.
After the event is over, I'd like to invite Kiwanis to our meeting to thank them for organizing it, for all their volunteering, give them a certificate, and shake their hand and say thank you. But that's all my comments.
Yeah, I support the event as well, and I will make a motion to approve staff recommendation.
I'll second.
Can we do a roll call, please?
Director Avila?
Aye.
Director Dennett?
Yes.
Director O'Brien?
Yes.
Vice Chair Freeman?
Yes.
And Chair Gray?
Aye. Thank you. That takes us to item 9B, review and consider participation in the International Cities of Peace program and signing the initiative.
Thank you, Chair. Ms. Pennington will provide staff's report.
Thank you, Chair Gray and members of the board. The International Cities of Peace program was established in 2009 with a foundational vision to assure everyone's right to safety, prosperity, and quality of life, the consensus values of global peace. There are currently 375 cities worldwide participating in the program with the goal of reaching 1,000 by the year 2025. At the January 21st, 2023 event announcing Simi Valley as an International City of Peace, over 400 rocks were placed in the shape of a peace sign that were painted by middle school children in the themes of peace and hope. The rock garden is placed at Corriganville Park. There are many current Simi Valley supporters, including the City of Simi, the Police Department, the School District, Chamber of Commerce, Rotary Club of Simi Sunrise, Sunset Rotary Club, Seroptimus International, and the organization For the Need. There are many, Simi Valley has many visions in the City of Peace program to include creating an atmosphere of tolerance for others' opinions and diversity, fostering a culture of peace through education, promoting sustainable economic and social development, promoting respect for all human rights, ensuring equality between women and men, fostering democratic participation, promoting international peace and security, and developing a connection of various nonprofits, clubs, faith groups, civic groups, and other stakeholders. The city's goals include developing an International City of Peace board that includes a broad scope of individuals from both civic and private organizations as well as local citizens. Another goal is to promote peace through social media, celebrate International Day of Peace, which is September 21st, and to communicate and connect with other stakeholders within Simi Valley. This attached to the staff report is an opportunity, if the board so chooses, to sign in support of this program and join the initiative. And staff is here to answer any questions.
Any board questions? I see Ed's hand.
I have a question. Okay, so is there anybody here from that program?
Mr. Baxter is here.
Hi, John. Can I
John,
ask?
yeah, John, if you could come to the podium, please, yeah. So folks on Zoom can hear as well.
So I know you spoke here about a month ago, and that was the first I had ever heard of this. I tried to do a little research on it, but I do have some questions. So is the organization itself a nonprofit? How can you describe that?
I cannot answer that question.
Okay. Is there a, so if I'm understanding this correctly, you're representing like a local Simi Valley?
Right.
Okay. So there's also, is there like also like a nationwide board or an international board?
It's an international board.
Okay. And do they, I mean, all the things that are in here are great in terms of what's being said. I don't think there's that many people out there who would be opposed to any of that. And, you know, probably 99% plus of the world population would prefer peace. But are there any stated policies by, whether it's the national or international, in terms of what they support or don't support politically?
You know, I can get you that paperwork if you wanted to. I don't have it with me tonight.
Right.
But I believe it's on the website.
And I'm just going to give you an example.
Okay.
And so, you know, I was a big fan of President Reagan and peace through strength. I mean, does this organization support that? Do they oppose that? I mean, do you understand the types of things I'm trying to ask?
So it's an offshoot of another one called Peace. It's another peace initiative it's an offshoot of that, International Cities of Peace. There was called Cities of Peace, and there was an art community, and this is an offshoot of that. It's growing. A lot of it, some of it's through Rotary, some of it's just through other communities, and deciding, okay, we want to recognize that the ideals of peace and put it to the forefront instead of just making the assumption that people just want peace. But how do we be more proactive about it? And that's what our group's going to be about, is being more proactive about it. But not in a big grandiose way, but more about simple things, subtle things.
Right, and I think for me, I'm less concerned about what you would do locally and more concerned about what maybe a national or international organization might represent, that it might actually be contrary to some visions of peace, and depending on what the point of view was. So, because there are different views on how you achieve peace, and that's...
It's tied to the UN initiative, International Cities of Peace. So I don't, as to them being opposed to other initiatives, I haven't heard anything along those lines.
Right. Okay. And so, and you weren't sure on the nonprofit part, so you don't know in terms of the national, international organization who key donors are or who beneficiaries might be of money that is...
I know it's really a grassroots organization. It doesn't cost anything to belong to. There's another organization that involves peace, but it costs thousands of dollars to join. And this is more of a grassroots one, and I know Rotary's behind it also, so it's, I couldn't answer that question.
Okay, all right, thanks, John.
Any other board questions?
I know we had talked about peace poles on hiking trails, but that was just me and you talking about it. What did can you tell us what your thoughts are currently as part of this plan for other board members to know?
Everything to me is just very, very simple, subtle things that we do. I know we have, for the International Day of Peace, they're talking about like a moment of silence, just for the ideals of peace. You know, that's something we're going to encourage. We have a person that's very much an expert in peace language and how to use peace in language, and we're inviting up to 50 students to be involved in that process to learn more about it and through subtle things like that. I'm looking forward to working with the PTA to see what subtle things, little things we can do. We have Red Ribbon Week, we have Earth Day, but the International Day of Peace has been around for a number of years, and we still haven't. I'd love to see us get more involved and bring it more to the forefront.
I just have an existential question for the universe. If 99% of the people want world peace, why don't we have it? Can you answer that for me? I can dream, right?
Make sure you get the answer in the minutes so we can refer back to it.
get that information for you?
I would, yeah, I mean, I would like to, yeah, at some point I'd like to see that. Sure.
Okay.
Any other board question? I think that will then take us to public comment. Is there anybody who would like to make a public comment on this item?
Not seeing any in the boardroom, Chair.
Thank you. Any board comment?
I support us signing on to this. I do understand that there might be some questions, but in my opinion, we're signing on to the values that were placed in front of us, not the values of some other organization. So the values that were brought to us are values that I think that we support, or I support. And then the idea that we had discussed was at the top of hiking trails, a peace pole that says the name of the hiking trail. The public benefit would be when people take pictures with trail they're on, other people might ask them, where is that? How far is that? I see that as separate than this, so if you bring that back to us as an idea, we can discuss that later. But I plan to support just signing on to International Cities of Peace.
Any other board comment?
Yeah, comment question. Is there any legal reason why we shouldn't be doing this? We talked about this last time. We wanted to.
Oh, well, again, you were signing on behalf of the district, so I just wanted to make sure that it was, it's a district action. It should be approved by the board.
Right.
It should be noticed as far as the Brown Act. As far as that, there's no other, I see no other reason why there would be a legal prohibition. I imagine it's protected by First Amendment, so I think you're fine.
All right. I understand Director Avila's comment about the ideas of how to achieve peace. There's very different opinions, and so that would be if I had a concern, that would be my only concern. But I think it's a good idea.
Ed?
Right, so I'll get to the bottom line. So I have no problem, based on what's put in front of us, voting for this as far as the board action is concerned. And I don't mind if the chair signs off on it. I could not individually sign off on this because I just have too many questions about, too many questions and not enough information about the organization as a whole. To Kate's point, about, well, if so many people want peace, why don't we have more of it? It's because there's different ideals and different theories in terms of how you achieve peace. So personally, without having more information, I could not individually sign off on this. I could vote for it as a board action based on the information that we've been given and what this represents. So that I could do, but I couldn't go to the point of individually signing off just because it's way too, there's just a lack of information in terms of what's represented here.
Can I approach?
I see your
Chair, Mr. Baxter would like to approach the podium. Are you okay with that?
That's fine.
I did find information that it is a nonprofit 501c registered. What they do say is International City of Peace is an all-volunteer, altruistic, yet practical organization dedicated to facilitating the establishment of cities of peace worldwide. The central organization is a registered 501c nonprofit association, a cooperative much like an industry trade association. International Cities of Peace members include hundreds of self-established cities of peace on all 6 continents in 2017. Cities of Peace achieved special consultative status with the United Nations Economic and Social Council for NGOs.
Thank you, John.
My
Elaine,
excuse me, my only comment is I've already signed it as a part of Rotary, so if this board wants to move forward, I'd be supportive of that.
And Kate, to your point, I don't have an answer to that, but that there's a variety of ways to achieve peace. I see this list, how to achieve peace. Create an atmosphere of tolerance for opinions and diversity and promote peace through education, economic development. They're saying that this is a specific way to create peace that dictators wouldn't agree with, but promoting human rights, we can see that not all governments are doing that. We can interpret those things, but I plan to support it. I'd like to sign as a board member. So whatever the motion is, and then if you choose not to, I'd like to not just let Josh sign, but I'd like to sign it too as a board member.
As I say, I'll vote to support it as an organization, but I can't individually sign it for lack of information that I have.
It's each person's option, whether they want to or not.
Yep. I will say I have no problem signing, and I'm happy to vote in favor of this. I don't think that's.
So how about this as a motion? I'll make a motion that we approve this with each board member being able to sign onto it if they choose to.
I'll second that.
Sorry, Brian, to clarify, then would Rancho Simi consider itself a partner?
Correct. We'd be a partner of it, and each board member can also sign on to it as a board member if they choose to.
Oh, thank you. I'll second. Could we do roll call, please?
Director Avila?
Aye.
Director Dennett?
Yes.
Director O'Brien?
Yes.
Vice Chair Freeman?
Yes.
And Chair Ray?
Aye, and I apologize. I think somebody else seconded before I did. Okay, thank you. That takes us to item 9C, adoption of resolution number 2057, modifying District Policy Manual, Chapter 7, Board Meetings, Rules and Procedures, Section 102 regarding the presiding officer, including clarifying the role of the chair and vice chair conducting district board meetings. I think you all are just seeing how long these can go and how far we'll take it.
Ms. Pennington will provide staff's report.
Get that until right now.
All right, during the COVID-19 pandemic, board members were permitted to attend meetings remotely through Assembly Bill 361. And most recently, Assembly Bill 2449 passed, allowing board members to continue attending meetings remotely under certain circumstances outlined in the bill. The district's current policy does not address direction for the presiding officer when attending meetings remotely. Pursuant to previous direction, the following addition to the policy is presented for board consideration, and the sentence reads as, "The chair may select another member of the board to preside over the meeting if the chair is attending the meeting remotely." And that is the extent of the report. Happy to answer any questions.
Board questions? I'm not seeing any hands.
No, I just want to say that the whole point of having a vice chair is so we have someone that can step in if the chair is not available or available remotely, and there's a good reason. So.
Are we doing comments? Because I have.
Oh, that's a comment, sorry. Not a question.
I'm not hearing any questions. That will take us to public comment. Is there anybody in the audience who would like to comment on this item?
I see none in the boardroom, Chair.
Thank you. That will take us to board comments. Elaine, are you good with your comment?
That was Kate.
Oh, I apologize.
No,
I
that's
apologize.
right. Yeah, everything I said before over again. That's
Oh,
probably a
yeah.
mixture.
Since I invoked your name incorrectly, I apologize, Elaine. Elaine, do you have any comment on this item?
Yes, I do. I would only support this if there was some additional language added, because I think as it is written, I think it would contribute to the divisiveness. You have a chair and a vice chair, which is a protocol, and if the chair can bypass the vice chair, I think that could create tension among board members, and I don't think that's healthy. So the only way I would support this is that it would read, the chair, did not read the whole thing, but the chair is attending the meeting remotely. If the vice chair is not available, if you can pick another member of the board. If the chair is not available and the vice chair isn't available, then another member of the board can be the chair of that meeting.
Well,
And that would have to be cleared in advance. I don't
I actually
I just cannot, I think that the whole concept here is divisive long-term. When you have a system that's worked, and it works in every other way, not just here, but as a chair and a vice chair, there's protocol, there's responsibilities for each, and so I don't see any need for this change in policy at all.
Well, so let me, I'm not going to be voting for this, and I'll explain that in a minute, but in fairness to Elaine, I understand what she's saying, that as it stands right now under the policy, if the chair is present at a meeting, the chair chairs the meeting. If the chair is not present, the vice chair chairs the meeting, and that's as it should be. So the issue here is, that came up was when there was talk about the chair attending a meeting remotely and not being comfortable with chairing the meeting, what would be the procedure? And in that situation, I'm going to be voting against this for reasons I'll explain. But if that policy is going to be adopted, I actually do see what Director Freeman is saying, that instead of saying select another member of the board, that it should indicate that the vice chair would then be the next in line to preside over the meeting. Does that make sense? I actually understand the point there. So right now it's vague as to if the chair was uncomfortable chairing the meeting remotely as to who would chair the meeting, and what it should indicate, and if I was voting for this, I would want it to indicate, but I'm not voting for this, but I would want it to indicate that it would be the vice chair that would then be next in line to preside over the meeting. It doesn't currently read that way. It currently reads that the chair could just pick who they wanted. So I do see even though I'll explain why I'm not voting for this in a minute, but I do agree with the point that Director Freeman is making. This leaves, this would leave it as the chair choosing who would conduct the meeting, and the point is that the vice chair would be next in line.
Dan, I would like the vice chair to chair the meeting if the chair is online and does not want to chair the meeting. Is that something we could adjust if this gets voted on today? Just the language, the chair may select the vice chair to keep the rest of the sentence the same?
Yeah, to the first point, I think if you simply said the chair may select the vice chair of the board to preside over the meeting, if the chair is attending the meeting, would fix that. Instead of saying another board member, just put the vice chair.
Right, that's correct.
That would correct that. To your point, Brian, though, this gives the chair the authority to decide whether or not he wants to have the vice chair do it if he's online or not. I think to your question, if you want somebody to be in attendance at the meeting, then you would need to write this in another way that says if the chair is attending remotely, the vice chair would automatically chair the meeting. This gives the chair the option to select.
I wanted the chair to have the option, but that it would default to the vice chair.
And I think if you just replace the word another member of the board with vice chair, select the vice chair.
I think that makes more sense.
So that's what I plan to support, and the reason I mention that now is to frame our discussion. I'll plan to support that with the vice chair, currently Elaine Freeman, would take over if Josh Gray.
So if I was in favor of this, I would agree with that. But now whenever I can indicate why I'm not.
I'll just say I agree with the premise we're all discussing, and I think you should go ahead with your comment.
Okay, so this will be a Reader's Digest version of what I indicated previously. The problem that I have with this is I favor when the situation's appropriate and it's within the law for whether it's the public or board members to be able to attend remotely, to be able to attend by Zoom. I'm strongly in favor of that. But what we have to remember is there's a large segment of society and residents who don't agree with that policy. And by passing this and saying, and basically leaving it up to the chair, whether the chair is going to chair a meeting remotely, leaves the idea that there may be something about attending remotely where the board member is not fully engaged or is unable to fully engage or is not all in on the meeting. And when you do that, if anybody ever wanted to attack the idea of Zoom attendance or remote attendance, that would be their best way to attack it, is to say, hey, this board is conceding that there may be situations where someone attending remotely is not all in or is not fully capable of carrying out all the members, all the duties of board members. So for that reason, I am opposed to this policy because I think it would undermine what I believe is a good policy on our part, and that is that where we can, whether it's public attendance, when appropriate for board member attendance, staff attendance, that we allow people to attend remotely and that we allow people to participate remotely. But not all segments of society, not all of our community agrees with that idea. And you weaken the position when you take a stance like this, that there may be situations where a board member is not fully engaged and all in. And frankly, you have been, Josh. I think you've done just an outstanding job these last 2 meetings remotely. So I don't believe there is a need for this policy, and I do believe that this policy will undermine what I think has been great on our part about opening this up to the public remotely as much as we possibly can. So for that reason, I am going to vote no on this.
Well, I will never say no to you or anyone complimenting me, Ed. I appreciate the support. I will just say, I think in my view, I think this just provides flexibility to the board, and the community can understand that there are differing circumstances. I would also say I feel I've been fully engaged. I'm not distracted. I see no problem there. But I do want to know that, or to put it in writing, that in any other instance, the situation could be different. It could be necessary to alter it for whatever reason. So I still support the flexibility, and but do respect your take on it, Ed. Any other board comments?
Can someone just state exactly how it's going to read? The way I see it, the chair, if it's attending remotely, may ask the vice chair to take over the meeting. I mean, that's where we are, right?
If I could repeat the sentence that would be added to the policy, if it's approved, the chair may select the vice chair to preside over the meeting if the chair is attending the meeting remotely.
Perfect. Thank you. I'll move that motion.
I'll second that.
As amended, please.
As amended. I have comment on it before we vote on it, but I'll second that motion.
What we're doing is we're adopting the resolution modifying the policy manual as amended.
I think he said he had a comment. Mr. Denny.
Brian, do you want me to call roll call, or did you want to make a comment?
I had more comment, but I did second that motion. I support the change in the policy to give flexibility. I could see circumstances where it might be difficult to read the audience if there's a large group on a contentious issue, and that should be the person presiding over the meeting. But Ed, to your comments, if somebody questions the use of Zoom, especially for the public, I'll stand with you on that, because we've had so many success stories where people are busy, they're out volunteering, and they come to our meetings online. So I wouldn't want to undermine that. I get your argument that this does, but I'll stay with, we should have our meetings on Zoom and in person, especially for public attendance.
And Josh, just one quick thing, just so that it's clear.
Sure.
I have no problem with the amendment. If this was going to pass, it should be as amended. I'm opposed to the policy as a whole.
But I'm not clear what policy.
That if a chair is attending remotely, that they can give up their duties as a chair. If the chair is attending remotely, I believe the chair should preside over the meeting, period.
I see, not have any flexibility.
Yeah, if the chair is attending, just like if they're attending in person, they should be presiding over the meeting. That's why I'm opposed. I've indicated that previously and 3 times tonight.
I just wanted a clarification. I wasn't sure.
Right. I'm not opposed to the wording, the vice chair wording. I think if you're going to have the policy, that is the correct wording. I'm opposed to the policy of because someone is doing something remotely, they're not going to have the full duties that they would in person.
I think that will take us to roll call, please.
And Director Avila,
No.
Director Dennett,
Yes.
Director O'Brien,
Yes.
Vice Chair Freeman,
Yes.
Chair Gray,
Aye.
and the motion carries 4-5.
Thank you. That takes us to item number 10, written communications of note.
Thank you, Chair. I have staff and the board received an email regarding altercation or conflict, I'll say, between a park patron and softball players recently. I just wanted to update the board that Director Miller and I are talking to both parties, doing some investigation on that, and working toward resolution so that that type of thing won't happen in the future at that location. That's all I have for written communications, Chair.
Thank you. Any board members have written communications of note? Okay, I'm not hearing any. So that will take us to number 11, reports by board members. Brian, would you like to kick us off?
We had an Royal cleanup with Royal High School and Simi High School students and invited students from many schools. We found many items. I brought a magnet and a hook to try to get shopping carts, but found none. The other team found 3 though. We did find so much trash in the Royal, but the students were really good at picking it up, and they're thankful for the park district for supporting them in that and picking up the bags of trash from the corner of the park. So we appreciate the staff support for that. I attended the opening day for softball with Kate, and I'm really glad I know you were there earlier, and then things got switched around with the rain. But the thing I want to share is those their banners and the costumes and the walk-in. I'm so glad we've never been asked to judge that, because that would be really hard. It's really fun though to watch them get out there. I attended our superintendent's State of the School speech as a board member. Our partnership with the schools is important, and we heard many good things that night. And then lastly, Josh, Amy, congratulations. Looking forward to logging off of Zoom and making sure you're packed up and stuff and getting out of here. But congratulations on your win.
Thank you. Vice Chair Freeman, would you like to go next?
Sure. First, I had Santa Susana Little League, and fortunately it didn't rain, and it was a beautiful day. I mean, it was cloudy, but all the kids were out there, and I have to say, every time I see those little 4- and 5-year-olds, and some of the coaches, it's like herding cats, you know, the kids wander off here and wander off there. But it's a great benefit to this community, and all the hours that the coaches and parents put in. It was just a great kickoff that morning. And after that, I went to the Santa Susana Train Depot. And I have to say that there was a lot of work put into that event that day. Jeannie and her group did a great job, all dressed in costume. And they gave away little bags of goodies. They monitored it out during the day though, so that they didn't run out all at once. But they had about, 450 people that day come to the train depot. And I really think it's like a hidden gem, you know, and people don't appreciate it or don't even know it's there. So thanks for a good job. Tell everybody thank you. Had a Strather meeting Monday with Director O'Brien, and we went over all of the maintenance items, and they now have a volunteer docent of up to 50, 30 are active, and the school tours are all booked, and putting shed mural project will probably be the end of April. The weather hasn't been conducive to getting it done any sooner. April 1st and 2nd are Civil War days, and everything's all organized. So all we have to do is pray it doesn't rain. And it didn't rain for your wedding. It was cloudy, but yes, good. And then May 20 is the celebration of Pat Havens and Meet the Strather. So I hope more will be coming out on that. Put it on your calendar. And scholarship for Fat Havens organizational-wise is coming along. Jeannie's done a good job of getting that organized. And the museum director position, the job description has been completed, which is really great. So we've been waiting for that. And schedule of routine inspections, and the next meeting will be April 10th. I had a CARPD legislative committee meeting and a CSDA legislative committee meeting. CARPD has gotten a lot more organized now than they have in the past. They've always had a lobbyist on staff, but this year they've gotten into developing a policy manual, how they're going to handle legislation, much more detailed, much more orderly than in the past. And the meeting went on quite a long time, actually, because of the organizational structure. But there's a couple bills that CARPD is working on. Children's camps and regulation. Some of the bill was last year AB 1737, and this year it's sorry, I don't have the new number. It actually makes it very difficult if the bill were to pass for us to have our program, our camp programs, or even after-school programs. And our general manager worked on it last year, and the new lobbyist seemed surprised when I mentioned that the author didn't keep to his commitment of what was agreed to last year. Would that be fair to say? Yes, okay. Anyway, they're working on that with CSDA. It could be really impactful. Other bills, temporary public employees, there's all kinds of new rules if they pass this that would make it difficult for us just to hire temporary employees. They'd have to go through almost like a permanent employee. It's bizarre, but I understand what they're up to. You may remember last year on CSDA we had a long session. It was supposed to be in public, in person. And the weather was so bad, at the very last minute I was on my way to the airport and it got canceled to be all in Zoom. And it's about a 4.5 hour, 5 hour meeting. It actually is more productive if you're one-on-one, face-to-face, but anyway, I didn't have to go to Sacramento, which was good. You may remember a bill last year affecting park districts where we have to let the state know how many restrooms we have. And they keep track, and the bill would require park districts and library districts to complete an inventory of their accessible permanent public restrooms, including single occupancy restrooms. The point is they want to make these so public that we have to keep them open, thinking of the homeless situation. And that's been problematic in the past. Another bill, SB 769, local government fiscal and financial training. It would require training every 2 hours of training every 2 years for anyone who receives or pays out. We'd have to send our staff to this training every 2 years, which seems ridiculous because they all know what they're doing. There's also legislation to increase the paid sick leave days and the accrual and how that would affect our budgeting. going to try and put some of these into a report so that you all have them. This one will interest Wayne. It's public contracts, local public agency construction act. The measure is currently an intent bill seeking to amend the local agency public construction act, which sets forth the requirements for competition bidding. So I'm not sure how that's going to come out. And one thing that I'm really quite worried about is California Air Resources Board. They have a proposed policy out. It's called Advanced Clean Fleet Draft Regulation Fact Sheet. State and local public agencies with a fleet of at least one affected vehicle. Well, we have considerably more than one affected vehicle. And it would require our conversion of those on a timeline. And it's something we have to really think about. 100% zero emission trucks by 2035. I mean, if you think about the vehicles we have now, the trucks, and having to convert all of that, I understand their goals, but and all of our equipment would have to be zero emission by 2034. So this is.
Did it say new equipment would purchase or phase out equipment?
We need our, our own resources.
Oh, I meant like we have to get rid of our cars, but just as we replace them. Did it say that?
This is proposed. And I don't know if we got any information to CSDA or not.
So the staff and I, Wayne and his staff, we did a full analysis of the air car build. I'm not sure how that one that's proposed is different than the one that we may have looked, but I'm going to have to follow up on that with the staff to see if that's any different than the analysis that we completed. So.
But I mean, it's not immediate, but long term, cost-wise, could be.
So the analysis when we did it, it looked like we were going to have to move toward conversion. However, as Director Dinner said, it was more flexible. It sounds like
This
that
one
might be
doesn't
more
sound-
stringent than the previous one. So
This does not sound flexible. And that's why CSDA is working with the league and CSAC, putting all this together to get information back to the State Air Resources Board on the impact. I think that's it.
Ed, do you want to go next?
Sure, Josh. Okay, I want to start off with a response to some comments that occurred at the last meeting. And first, I want to thank my fellow director for a compliment that I run meetings like a courtroom. It's not true, but I love the compliment because I always thought I'd make a good judge. So that's great. But it's not true, and I mean even symbolically, it's not true. I think everyone knows that I have tremendous distaste for the gavel and would never use it. Whereas the person who made the comments is gavel happy. But so I just wanted to point that out. The more serious part of it is a couple of the other things that were said, that I conduct interrogations. I have neither the skill nor the talent to do that, and to use that word in a negative fashion is even concerning to me. Having worked as a prosecutor for over 30 years with dedicated, experienced detectives who spent their careers learning the art and the skill of interrogation and putting it to good use to keep our community safe. It's not a word that should be used in a negative manner like that, but more than anything else, it's certainly not a skill that I fully developed. I'm grateful that I learned some of the techniques, but never have used them. What I do, however, is I do ask direct questions with the idea of getting to answers and information that is useful to us. And That is not so much a talent, but a product of hard work and preparation and a desire to do what's good for our district and our community and our residents. And I remember my first ever meeting after I got appointed to the board. And it was over there on Sycamore Drive in the old building. And I walked in and I thought, is every meeting like this? There were people out the door. And there were representatives of Senior Youth Baseball and Santa Sue Baseball. And it was a discussion about allocating practice fields. It got loud, it got boisterous, it lasted for hours. And during that meeting, I thought, you know, this can't go on like this, and I started asking questions. And you know, I started getting answers, and I proposed solutions, and those solutions led to an agreement between those two leagues. And as it turns out, they're both outstanding organizations that do a great job. They're different philosophically, but they do such good for the youth of our community. And since that time, I've had great relationships with both of those organizations. And I would never give that up, and I would never give up asking those questions and taking the chance on proposing the solutions like I did at that meeting. And there's been so many other examples since then. You know, when we had the, in Simi Valley, the pickleball tennis discussion, I asked questions, and it led to recommendations on my part that led to the turning some of the tennis courts into pickleball courts at Rancho Simi Park. I supported a staff recommendation. I was in the minority to take down a tree that was a hazard in Oak Park. But the community spoke, I asked questions, I kept an open mind, and I'm the one who made the motion to reconsider. It's always about keeping an open mind, it's always about listening to the public, and it's always about asking direct questions. If not, we don't make progress. There's so many other examples of it. The golf fees and the fees at Strathern Park that were we were undercharging for such a long time for discretionary activities. And again, I brought those things to life with questioning. Sometimes it's tough questioning of the staff, sometimes it's tough questioning of the public, but the idea is to get the answers, and that's led to a lot of progress in the district, and I intend to continue with that. And just a couple recent examples. I just felt that somehow, maybe if I attended the meeting between staff and the master swimmers, that it would make a difference. It sounds like in some small way, my attendance there did make a difference, and it led to a resolution. At our last meeting, we were discussing the fees for nonprofit pickleball tournaments, and there were good arguments on both sides. And there were two other board members that were one way and two that were the other, and I saw both sides, and I recommended, after asking some questions, the compromise solution that we adopted. So I'm proud of that. I intend to continue to do that, and I encourage everyone to do that. Asking the questions and getting the answers, it's part of our job. But the most important point that I want to make about the comments that were made at our last meeting is this. As a board member, I love it when we can all get along. I love being able to get along with staff, and we have the best staff on the planet. But those are not my top priorities. My top priority and my full duty and my full loyalty is to the people. It's to our residents, and it's to our constituents. They come first, they come second, they come third, and they are above all else. I don't feel I owe anything to anybody else other than the people, our residents and our constituents, and that's the way I conduct myself as a board member. So I want to conclude that portion of my comments making that clear. Josh and I attended the meeting with Mayor Thomas and Councilmember Rhodes. I think it was a good meeting, and it kind of went every bit as I thought as expected. Dan did an excellent presentation. I didn't join on the tour, and Josh was on the meeting remotely, but I know they went on a tour of the building, which I think was a great idea.
Short tour.
Short tour. They didn't want the long tour, huh? But no, it was an excellent meeting. It was informative. I think there was a good exchange of ideas. And so that was really neat. And it was really neat to have Josh be part of that as well. And then I have to say, for the past few days, Josh, you've been dominating my Facebook feed. Congratulations, awesome photos. It seems like it was a great time. And also congratulations on doing an excellent job conducting these last couple meetings remotely. And then whoever gave me the birthday cupcake, awesome, thank you. And everyone knows I have a sweet tooth, so it's really appreciated.
Thank you, Ed. Kate, do you want to give your report next?
Yeah, yes, I will. I also attended the Simi Valley Historical Society meeting along with Director Freeman. I had a CSDA fiscal committee Zoom and audit committee and fiscal committee, which we usually do like not consecutively on at the same time frame because a lot of the same people are on both committees. There was a proposal that several of us voted no on. It was setting a goal of $2 million for the building fund. Now CSDA wants to buy their own building, and there's a lot of good reasons why you might want to do that, and I get that. But setting aside $2 million for a building seems excessive. I think it would make more sense. They're going to look at it again. But I think it would make more sense for them to set a goal for the building fund. Set a goal of maybe $500,000, and then you could get a decent building. You have a down payment, and you can direct the funds that are now being used for the lease toward mortgage. And I just think that's a better idea, and hopefully we'll take another look at it. I also attended the Santa Susana Train Depot event, and that was a lot of fun. It was great. It was well attended, and the best thing I thought was the model train setup is amazing. Last time I saw it was like 10 or 12 years ago, I think. It was a long time ago, and it's so much more detailed, and they've got all these little cities, and it's really wonderful. You guys, everybody should go see it. It's just pretty amazing. It really is. What else do I have? I was thinking about how to shorten meetings after our last meeting, and maybe if board members all kept our comments to like 20 minutes or less. I'm just throwing a number out there. That would help, but it's not for a variety of reasons. First of all, it's more considerate of staff's time, and also some of our board members. Some of us can sleep in, but some of us can't. I know Director Denner has to get up and be at school, and Chair Gray, you're also working a regular job too, as is staff. The staff has to get up, regardless of how long we talk. Staff has to be up at, ready to go 8 in the morning, serving the public. And I think that the whole, just shortening our comments and being brief, thinking in haiku perhaps, that's one way to look at it, might be a good idea for that reason. Also, if you talk much longer than that, you start to lose your audience. I've heard comedians that talk for an hour, and their first 20 minutes is great, but after that, so that's just something I think we might want to all think about. And thank you also for my birthday cupcake. That looks really good. And last and probably most important of all, congratulations, Josh and Amy. I'm glad it didn't rain. And that's it.
Thank you, Kate. I am going to quickly echo Ed's comments on the meeting with the mayor and City Council Member Rhodes. I thought it was excellent. Dan and Richard, I think you all did an excellent job. I think you represented the Park District well. I appreciate the effort that went into that. And I thought we represented ourselves well. And Ed, thank you for being there in person. I think that, we handled the situation well together. And then I will say the wedding was outstanding. I've been sharing on social media freely for the last several days. It was magical and outstanding, and as has been noted, Amy and I made a last-minute gamble and decided we were going to have the ceremony outside and hope the weather behaved, and it did, thankfully. We were fortunate to have it outside, That being noted, I do have to give a shout out, and I'll list some names to staff who, despite the fact that it didn't rain during the ceremony, I was witness to it Thursday, Friday, Saturday, being there at all hours, to mud everywhere, water everywhere, and having severe doubts about what the conditions for an outside ceremony might be. And staff did an outstanding job making that happen and being able to work with Amy and I, with our other vendors, to make the venue serviceable and more than serviceable. I mean, it was beautiful, it was outstanding. Staff was adaptable, but I do have to list specific names of people who I know were outstanding. So I do want to say thank you to Jeannie. I'll have more to say about Jeannie's contributions, but thank you also to Casey, to Jake, to Ranger Abner, and all those names who I may not have heard, who contributed to it. I do believe at one point I heard Wayne's name dropped as someone who offered a solution to some mud issues. But all of these people and more staff contributed to making Amy and I's day a success when it could have been an absolute nightmare with wedding guests slipping and falling in mud. While a humorous image, I don't think our guests would have appreciated it. Jeannie, I found out on Friday while we were doing our rehearsal, not dinner, but rehearsal practice, I found out was also celebrating her wedding anniversary, which I felt really bad that she was spending part of her evening from 5 to 6 of her wedding anniversary, assisting Amy and I in our vendor setup. So I am glad we were able to get out of there on time so she could go and celebrate with her significant other and her family and any other loved ones. But I did want to call that out and appreciate her for that, as well as accommodating our event. And Jeannie made the wedding happen. She made the venue accommodating. She helped a lot of Amy and I's family members who have restricted mobility be able to attend and move them about the facility and the venue when was needed so that they could attend those special moments and get there. That was incredibly generous and incredibly nice, and I know Amy and I appreciate it so very much. And I know our family members did too, and sang Jeannie and other staff's praises. And then I also want to add, guests all raved about Strathern. The day was truly incredible. The rain helped beautify it beyond belief. Strathern is looking gorgeous right now. And Amy and I loved it. We couldn't be more grateful to RSRPD staff, our other vendors, and everyone who did make the day possible. We are incredibly grateful. And so I did want to give that shout out. It truly was special. It was everything that Amy and I wanted. So thank you to all the staff who contributed to that. It was incredible. And as we continue to get photos from our photographer, we will absolutely be sharing some of the beautiful photos they captured. I will say my favorite is our photographer captured a moment as the sun broke out, as Amy and I were in the chapel, lit up both through the windows and the stained glass. That is just, I don't think there will be a better photo from the wedding than that one. Beyond that, yeah, I apologize. I will not be at our next meeting, but I hope it all goes well. I hope the Earth Day nominations are a success and we're able to nominate that. But I am pleased to say the meeting following that, I will be in person and looking forward to continuing all the great work the staff and the board are doing for the community. That will conclude my report. That takes us to item 12, report by district manager.
Thank you, Chair and Board. I recently received a call from the local Elks organization. Apparently they have a grant opportunity from their national organization related to veterans. They've expressed an interest in applying for the grant on our behalf and potentially contributing to our flag project at the Veterans Facility. So the staff and I will be working with them and getting them the information that they need for their grant application in support of the project we're doing. The board previously adopted a resolution authorizing the submittal of a CAL FIRE grant for Media Creek. I'm pleased to report that we did submit that grant, and the final amount of the grant was $1.68 million. And we'll keep the board informed as the grant approval process moves forward. I did want to note that a group of staff did attend both sessions of the State of the Schools on behalf of the district. Good for relationships and partnerships, and Miss Ellis was there, I believe. So anyhow, a group of us attended the morning session, which was directed at businesses in the real estate community, and then another couple of us went to the evening session that was focused on families. So that was very nice. I am focused, I know it's a priority of our chair, but also the board, on open space acquisitions, trying to get creative there, and have had several conversations and discussions trying to find areas that we can expand our public use for trails and hiking in the community. Another board follow-up item, field lights. That was a topic of discussion. It's going to come back as part of budget, but just want to let the board know that staff is doing a significant amount of work to refine cost estimates and items related to field lights. Did just want to note the cameras on this facility are outdated, so I'm working with our IT folks and Wayne's area to replace the cameras on this facility. Probably going to be in the area of $13,000 or $14,000. That's within my authority, but they're getting outdated and need to be replaced. Also received a call from the executive director of the Museum of Ventura County, which is a county-wide museum, but it's based in the city of Ventura. The executive director reached out and asked if she could come over and meet with our staff, Jeannie and others, to talk about partnerships between the regional museum of Ventura County and Stratton. So we will be having that meeting. Staff will be kicking our budget. The staff's already working on it, but we'll be working very intensely on the budget over the next couple of weeks, preparing that for board review in May. As it relates to the budget, the board had previously discussed our May 10th budget meeting, which is the first time that the board will be receiving the budget, and with an emphasis on focusing that discussion on capital projects. So we intend to do that in keeping with what the board would like to focus on. As it relates to that, we had also talked about trying to engage the community more. The board had asked that we get folks so we can get some information from the community that will provide input into the decision-making process for the board. Not set in stone and open to input, but we're thinking about somewhere in the middle of April, 3 or 4 weeks before the May 10th meeting, we're going to send a directed letter to our stakeholder groups, anybody that we know are involved or interested in facilities that we offer. That letter will probably be fashioned in a way that asks for a representative of the group to come and comment briefly and provide input to the board. So we'll do that in the middle of May. With general marketing, we plan to work with the Acorn about the same time, hopefully get an article or a press release in the Acorn, the April 28th issue, and it gives them that attention. We plan 3 press releases, or 3 releases on social media leading up to the May 10th meeting, so we can get input out. And then some of our more current items that we've talked about over the last year or two, I plan to call the stakeholders directly and invite them to the meeting in addition to the letter for any current projects we're aware of. I'm hopeful that through the general messaging, but also the directed messaging, that the board will have a fair group of the community here so that they can provide input to the board as you guys grapple with various priorities in our budget. Again, open to any input on that general calendar, and as we move forward, we'll be refining that a bit and perfecting it. Orientation meetings are scheduled with County Supervisor Janice Parvin on March 30th and County Supervisor Jeff Gorell on April 4th. I wanted to note the state of the city, and I don't know if we've already done it, but we'll be sending out invitations to all of you to attend the State of the City on April 11th. Ed will be representing the district as our speaker that day. Upcoming board meetings, we have canceled the board meeting of Tuesday, April 4th, so we will not have a meeting. Our next board meeting will be April 19th. As directed, the agenda will be very light. There's only one item on there right now, but I expect that there will be maybe a few more, maybe contractual items or things like that will be on the agenda item on the 19th. I did want to note a couple of items that I know the board, that are follow-up items from the community. The board meeting structure and length, we've been talking about that. My plan there, I think we talked about it, was to bring that back maybe in July-ish after we get through the budget and some of these other high priority items. So I'm planning a discussion of that formally sometime in July. The equestrian fees, again, just want to remind the board, we've been working with them. That will be on the board agenda on May 3rd. Which is the first meeting in the agenda before the budget discussion. And then also the golf fees are going to be scheduled for the first meeting in June along with the assessment. That we have no committee meetings scheduled other than the Historical Society, which we attend. And finally, on behalf of myself and the staff, Josh, we'd like to congratulate you on your wedding as well. That concludes my report. Yes.
There's Oak Park in April, right?
Oh, yes, thank you. The Oak Park, and I have that highlighted, thank you, Ed. The Oak Park Committee is meeting on April 13th. I do have, the staff and I put together the agenda. We're going to be doing that at the last week in March. So for the liaisons that are involved in that, I'll be able probably to report out. I'll give you guys a report on what's going to be on that agenda once we put it together. April 13th for the Oak Park Committee meeting. That concludes my report. Thank you.
Dan, this is really a question for Wayne. Was he able to adjust the lights on the ball field?
I'll ask Wayne to answer. I don't know where the lights that we're working on are some of the replacement costs
I
and
wondered if
such.
there was any resolve to adjusting the lights.
Not yet.
Not yet?
The answer is not yet. I haven't been out there yet to look at the lights and to map the lights.
It's been a little wet.
It's not been a little wet, it's that they're not playing ball right now. So I'd have to have maintenance turn on the lights just for me to go out there and examine it. But hopefully, I've been told that ball field season starts at the end of the month. So I'll get out there the first week with the ladies that I promised me to go check out the ball field lights. And this microphone's not working, is it?
Gotta turn it on.
Thank you.
Yeah, you have to hit.
Lights on.
Thank you, Dan, and
Josh,
thank
I
you.
had a question for Dan.
Go ahead.
I didn't know if you were about to ask or move on.
Go ahead. I was moving on.
Dan, any update on the tree at the baseball field?
Yeah, Steph and I worked on that pretty much all morning. It's a pretty complex situation. It's not only the tree that is there now, so there's a tree that fell down at the entryway to the Sinaloa Fields, and it's a tree that's a responsibility of the county. It's from the Flood Watershed Protection District. Brian, in addition to that tree, there's been 8 other trees that have been tagged, and the county arborist has been out there. So we are working with the county. I think Wayne is working with them. They're supposed to be out tomorrow morning. John and I think they've been in communication with the league president, and they understand the complicating factors of the situation. And they've come up with a plan to use part of the facility, I believe, this weekend if they can for rain, but I understand the league's in agreement with the plan. So that it's just not simply removing the tree out of the roadway, because there's a lot of risk with the other trees that are on this same hillside where the tree fell. So I really feel like we need to rely on the county's expertise and the arborist and their tree cutters to handle that. Us inserting in the middle of the process is going to be challenging and probably will be more disruptive than it would be helpful. So, but the update is the county is supposed to be out there tomorrow morning to try to begin the work to solve that problem. So.
And another question, Elaine mentioned a proposed bill about camps. We need to contact our legislators to discuss that. I just need, if you could just send me the bill number.
We may need to do that, so.
Just 2 things. If you can send me the bill number, and if Jackie Irwin has a state position on it, she's been really responsive to our needs. If she's already against it, we need to contact her. And then I liked your comments about finding open space, so thank you for working on that.
Any other board comment?
Yes,
on
I have
Dan's
another
report?
question, I'm sorry. I noticed that on the Ariel Greenway near First Street, as I look down, there's cones. Was there some washout on the trail or?
If I think, if I think it's the same thing, the city is replacing a sewer line in one of the major streets. So they asked us to use the Arroyo for their bypass line. So what we had to do is, in order to accommodate the need for them to replace their line, we've coned that off.
Okay.
There is signage and a trail through there, but one side of the Arroyo is closed during that period of the project. How long is the project supposed to last, Wayne?
It's only supposed to last like 17 days.
So it's a short-term project. They asked us to do that, and it's theirs as well. So if that's what that's probably what you're seeing.
Yeah, it looks something like something was going on.
It's a temporary sanitation line because the city is working on the one that is used, and that was the least impactful place to put it.
Thank you. I have one more question, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Who is responsible for the fencing along Sinaloa Golf Course? The wood or concrete, whatever it is?
Sinaloa or Sinaloa?
Well, all along Madera, there's the landscape lighting?
I don't know the answer to that for sure. I'm gonna guess for the frontage of the golf course, I'm gonna guess it's us.
I mean, I just noticed that there's parts of it are falling down.
It's a simple thing. If it's on the east side of Madera Road, it's us. If it's on the west side of Madera Road, it's the city of Simi Valley.
Because it's on both sides of the road.
Oh.
So yeah, we can, those posts are just falling down out there. Yeah, probably caused by the rain and some of the weight of the water. And so we'll get the crews out there to shore that up.
Okay, thank you.
Any other board question or comment on Dan's report? All right, I would just say thank you, Dan, and to the rest of the staff for the well wishes. It's greatly appreciated. And that will take us to item 13, closed session, which there is none, which takes us to 14, which is adjournment. I will adjourn this meeting at 8:47 p.m.